When I was in college, I thought my purpose in life was going to be becoming a physician and helping patients, and that would basically solve all my problems. So, really, my only focus in college was getting into med school, and I just assumed that once that was done, the clouds were going to part, all my problems were going to be solved, and I would live happily ever after. And needless to say, that is definitely not how things ended up. I checked the box of basically every goal that I thought I wanted. I bought the things that I thought I wanted that I'd been waiting for. I got the car, I got the waterfront apartment, started traveling, doing all the things that I'd been putting off. And initially, it was awesome. I was very happy, elated, excited. But then eventually, the shine wore off and it just became a new baseline. And then day after day, I was just going to work, treating patients, coming home, going to the gym, doing my hobbies. And then all of a sudden, you look up and year after year has gone by. And if I really ask myself, am I fulfilled? Am I living a life of purpose? The answer was very clearly no. So despite checking all these boxes and doing everything that I thought that I wanted, I was unhappy, unfulfilled, and the reason was a lack of purpose. Now, this word purpose has obviously become very mainstream and woo-woo and sort of in the self-development space. And there's this common idea that you find your purpose, that you're built for this one magical thing in life, and your job is to find what that is, and it can only be this one special thing. And there's Ikigai and all these books and all these step-by-step things. And those things might help, but in my opinion, purpose is not really something that's found. Because I tried that. I tried to find purpose through all those goals that I set for myself. To become a physician, to help people that way, to become wealthy, to buy the things that I wanted. That was a form of finding purpose based on what I thought purpose looked like. And now that I've gotten a bit older and more experienced, I've realized that truthfully, purpose has to be built and earned every single day. And we'll talk more about how to do that, but let's start with what purpose is not. Your purpose isn't going to be this one magical thing that feels like a revelation and it removes all the doubt and makes things easy and it explains the past that you've been through and it completely organizes your future the way it should be. It's not this magical thing that makes you feel good all the time, and it's certainly not easy either. Purpose is sort of the background foundational layer that pretty much paints over everything else that you're doing, and it gives meaning to the things that you're doing. And oftentimes those things that you're doing that you must do are going to be things that you don't feel like doing, that you don't even necessarily enjoy doing all the time. So it's very important to get this idea out of your head that just because you've found your purpose or you have some degree of purpose, that it's just going to make everything feel easy and you won't ever need discipline and sacrifice, because that's just not true. There was not one exam that I felt like studying for throughout college or medical school. There wasn't one 24-hour call that I felt like getting up for and going to the hospital for. I hated every second of it. However, at that time, if I felt like being a physician was part of my purpose, and these are the inputs that I have to take care of in order to get there, then it had to get done. It didn't matter how I felt in that moment. So it's just to illustrate that sometimes, even though you may be living your purpose, some people think that just because this is challenging or I don't feel good all the time, that I'm not actually living my purpose. And that's just not the case. Again, it's not some magic potion that just solves all the problems of your life. So stop putting it on a pedestal and expecting it to be the answer to everything. Now, the other thing too is that your purpose isn't just necessarily one thing. We've romanticized this idea of purpose into thinking that every person is just born with this one specific assignment that they're supposed to do, that everybody is born to be some kind of rock star or athlete or have that one thing that defines their entire life. And that can sound inspiring and exciting until you're that person trying to make the correct choice. And in reality, it just becomes paralyzing because you think that whatever path you decide to pursue is just a permanent decision. And you start thinking in black and white terms. Do I stay in this career? Do I leave? Do I build the business or do I focus on family? Do I pursue money or do I pursue creativity? What if I choose wrong and I choose the wrong thing and it's not my purpose and I ruin my life? But in reality, not everything is so black and white or yes or no. In reality, especially with the tools and resources and leverage we have now, you can pursue multiple things at the same time. So your purpose might look like many different paths. And one thing that I've learned about myself is that I feel most fulfilled and on purpose when I'm 80% in many different areas rather than 100% in one area. And I'll explain what that means. I've talked about this many times before, but when I was in college, my one and only focus was getting into medical school. I was at 100% focus on that, if you will. Everything that I did in the day was focused on that, and anything that didn't directly relate to getting me into med school, I didn't even bother with. Even the things that I wanted to do, I didn't play sports, I didn't have hobbies, I didn't do anything fun. And as a result, yes, I achieved my goal, sure, but I was extremely unhappy. And one of the biggest regrets in my life is that period of time in college where I didn't enjoy it at all. I just treated it as a means to an end. And now, having more life experience and wisdom, I try to operate at 70 to 80% in many different areas of life rather than going all in on one area. Instead of just working all the time, I understand that there's the opportunity cost of lost money when I'm not working, but I'll take that time to take care of my body, my health, my career, traveling, doing hobbies, focusing on my relationships. And I find that for me, when I put some time and energy into all these things rather than all my time and all my energy into one thing, I feel way more fulfilled. I feel way more on purpose than I would if I just focused on one thing and didn't care about anything else. So it's important to recognize that in your own life, that you can address multiple areas of life rather than just going all in on one thing and putting it on a pedestal, thinking that that's your one true mission in life. And there are certainly people like that, where they were just born to be an athlete or born to be a musician. But quite frankly, if that's you, you're probably not watching this video and you already know that. Now, real quick, guys, if you find value in these and you find these helpful, they're basically just conversations that I have for younger versions of myself, and hope that people in similar stages find it helpful. Be sure to check out the newsletter and the resources in the description. I'm working on a community for people to talk about this kind of stuff and figure out how to live the most fulfilled, happy lives that we can, getting over the past, figuring out life purpose, stuff like that. So be sure to check that out. It's all free for now, and I think it'll help you as well. Now, in a similar vein, passion is not purpose either. Passion's a feeling. You can be excited and passionate about many different things in your life, but it doesn't mean that it's your underlying one purpose of your life. I've been passionate about many things temporarily: flying planes, guitar, reading books, tennis, golf, you name it. And with my ADHD personality, I get bored of things just as fast, but it doesn't mean any one of those things was my purpose in life just because I felt excited about it briefly. And it also doesn't mean that any one of those things is taking away from the purpose of my life. They're all contributing. It's okay to have many different interests. It's okay to pursue different curiosities and just see what you like. You don't have to have this pressure of, I need to wake up excited every single day about what I'm doing, about the purpose that I'm living. And I need to enjoy every second of this thing that I've defined as my purpose. Oftentimes, if you're living a productive, good, healthy life, those routines are actually quite boring. And there is nothing exciting about getting up at the same time every day, about meditating and going to the gym. It's okay to be in a routine. It's okay to just feel neutral. I don't think you should hate every second of your life, but just understand that expecting every single day and every single action to be this elating feeling, it's just not reasonable, and it's not real life. That's just social media garbage. Now, in terms of actually finding purpose, now that we've taken it off a pedestal and kind of understood that it's not one thing, it's not passion, it's not permanent, one of the things that's really helped me in terms of finding this element of purpose in my life is looking at your pain. We all go through life experiences that we experience as painful. That's a normal part of life. And often we'll kind of just push it down and try to forget about it. Or many times people will allow it to take over their lives and let it define who they are and what they do. But rather, if you're able to look at your pain points in your life, the things that you've been through, the worst moments that you've had, the things that you struggle with, and if you can use those experiences to truly analyze them and use them to your benefit, you'll find that this can become a great source of purpose. So in my own example, I've talked about this before as well. Back when I was a young kid, we were living in a rough part of a rough city. And at that school, I had some pretty rough bullying experiences. And that was one of the major driving factors that led to me becoming a physician. Alongside that, one of the biggest pain points from my childhood was that I just felt weak, physically weak, mentally weak. And it had a lot to do with that bullying. I felt a lack of guidance. I didn't have any big brothers. I didn't have any true mentors, if you could even call it that, at that young of an age. Didn't have the greatest relationships. We were not well off financially. And all these things kind of formed this low-level identity that I carried myself with for a very long time. However, as I got older and I learned to look at these experiences through a different light, asking myself, what if I went through this experience for the best? Based on my belief systems, I'm a big believer in God. That's a big part of my life. So I believe that everything I've been through is a gift from God, good or bad. And when I started looking at it from that perspective, I would ask, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? How can I use this to become a better version of myself that I can then give to the world? And obviously you can have your own belief systems. I'm just sharing my experience, but for me, this has been extremely helpful. Those same painful experiences that kept me down for such a long time, that caused me to have no self-confidence, that caused me to believe I'm way less than I am. Those very things ended up becoming the fuel, the lessons, and the motivation to get me to where I am. And in pursuit of that, I found purpose. I was bullied as a kid. Okay, that taught me that I never want to have that feeling again. And I also don't want to be the source of that feeling for other people. So it taught me to help people in need and be in a position where I can be that pillar of strength for somebody else. And that led directly to me becoming a physician. I felt weakness physically and mentally. And that was the motivation once I put it through this framework that, okay, I need to get stronger. I need to be more capable. And that's what's led to consistently going to the gym and getting stronger for the last 10 years. So now I can be strong, I can be confident, and more importantly, I can teach others to do the same. I felt a lack of guidance, and look where this channel came from. There's only 30 subscribers to this channel as we speak, and I don't know where this ends up. I don't make any money off of it. I lose money for producing these and the virtual assistant and the software and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. Because I went through that lack of guidance and feeling alone and not knowing how to navigate my path, I get to give back now that I have successfully navigated it to that previous version of myself and whoever else that it helps. We were poor growing up? Good. That was motivation and teaching to me for me to understand how important money is in this world and to work hard and to pursue financial stability and financial well-being and to turn around and teach it to other people. So my point is, if you look at these pain points and whether it's God you believe in, the universe, whatever your belief system is, if you can convince yourself that I was meant to go through this for a particular reason, and then force it to work for you, extract the lesson from it, burn the fuel of it to never feel that way again, and put that fuel towards productive, meaningful action to turn you into a more purposeful, better version of yourself. And then the most important part, turn around and teach or guide people in some way to help them through what you've been through. And this has been a great source of purpose in my life. Every painful thing that I went through and still continue to go through, now I treat it with a welcoming attitude that, okay, God has decided that this is necessary for me to go through, for me to learn what I need to learn to become the version of myself I was put here to be. So I'm going to approach it that way. I'm going to make the best of it. And then I'm going to try to give back in some way. So all that is to say, sit down with a notebook, blank page, no distractions, and think, what were the most painful times in my life? How can I force them to work for me? And how can I find purpose in using all of that and who I become to give back to the world? And when you do this, not only does it give your pain meaning, but it gives you purpose because you get to help the people going through whatever you went through. Only you had to navigate it on your own, or at least you thought you were on your own. But now these people have you as their guiding hand. Now, sort of the opposite of the pain point is to look at your gifts and your unfair advantages. If you were born to be 7 feet tall, you might want to consider basketball, big dog. If you're really good at school and academics from a young age, maybe that's your path. There are certain things, we may not think so, but there are certain things that we're all really good at that come naturally to us, that feel like play to us, and it might feel like work to other people. And those are the gems that you've been blessed with. So you should look into that and figure out how you can incorporate that into your life and pursue it further. For me, ever since I can remember, I've always loved to teach. I've loved to learn and I've loved to teach. Always a bit of a nerd, interested in a bunch of different things. I remember all the way back in the 4th grade, we would learn something and I'd immediately start teaching it to other kids like I was an expert on the matter. And that ability to teach and to storytell, that's not something that I was ever formally taught. It was just something that I have. And now I apply it to this day doing these kind of videos. As you can see, my videos are not very entertaining. There are no visuals. There is no B-roll. It's just my monotone voice and my ugly ass handwriting. However, the substance that's there, and hopefully the people that listen and watch this can see that, is the authenticity and the stories that I'm telling that are my true experiences. And that comes easy to me. It's not something that I have to script out. It's not something that I have to force myself to do. I just turn the mic on and I speak from the soul because that's my thing. I enjoy doing it. And it doesn't mean I make a ton of money from it. It doesn't mean I'm famous or popular for it. It's just me doing my thing. And because I'm using that purposeful advantage that God has given me, I feel good about it. I feel like I'm living a life of purpose while giving back to the world. So look at what you're good at. It might be that you're very athletic. And again, that doesn't mean you're going to be a professional athlete, but can you be a coach for others? There's sports psychologists. There's personal trainers that change tons of people's lives. What is your thing that just comes natural to you? Some people are very funny. Some people are really good storytellers. What's that thing as a kid that you were drawn to before the world told you what you can and can't do? So finding that gift and that unfair advantage and finding what made you excited as a kid, that can be a huge key to getting closer to your purpose. Have that childlike attitude of just curiosity and following your own stream of consciousness, making time for that in your day, and you'll find that you'll feel like you're living a life of much more purposefulness. Now, I alluded to the idea of ikigai earlier, which is a Japanese concept which tells you to do what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And here I've left out the paid for part because, like I said earlier, just because something is your purpose doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be famous or popular or monetarily successful because of it. I just want you to focus on what does the world need and what are you uniquely equipped to give it. People get sick, the world needs physicians. I was good at school. I wanted to take care of people, so I became a physician. If you're really good at code and software engineering, the world always needs more of that. Maybe that's your purpose, or maybe that's one of your several purposes, or rather, maybe that's one of the elements within your purpose. The unique experiences you've been through, can you help other people through those experiences? People feel lost, people feel purposelessness, they need guidance. So I'm doing this channel strictly as a conversation to my younger self, and if it helps other people, great. If it's only 30 subscribers that this channel stays at, then I've served my purpose to those 30 people. It doesn't matter if it's 30 or 30 million. It doesn't matter if I lose money, make money, break even. Not my problem. My job is to give what I've been given to the world in a way that benefits the world, in a way that benefits people, so that me having been here, me having lived the life I've lived, it produces something positive for the world and for other people. And by giving back to them in my own unique way, I'm serving my purpose that God has put me here to do. So figure out what the gaps are. We have so many resources these days. Use AI, ask it, what are the biggest problems in the world right now? What does the world need? And see which gap you are best equipped to fill. Loneliness is a big problem. Can you figure that out? Can you build an app that brings people together? Can you build a local community center? Can you build third spaces for people? Can you make a contribution in some way? If you were insecure about your body growing up and now you're in great shape because you use that as motivation, can you help other people get to that point and change their body and change their lifestyle? And like we talked about earlier, it's not a permanent decision. It doesn't mean you just necessarily have to do one thing and do it forever. So you need to try as many things as possible. If you have an idea, pursue the minimum viable product. Just put it out there. Just try it. See how you feel after you try it. Does this feel like I'm on the right path? We all know subconsciously, we all have that low vibrational hum in the background when we're right on the path of doing what we're supposed to be doing versus when we're doing something we know we're not supposed to be doing and it's not what we were put here for. So if you listen to that voice in your head, if you meditate, if you pray, and you just listen to your intuition, you know at an inherent level, which to me is the voice of God, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing or not. So there's the logical mind aspect to this, figuring out what the problems are of the world, figuring out what you're good at and how you can contribute. But then there's an emotional intuition side of this, where once you start moving, once you start putting left foot, right foot, and just start progressing, you're going to get that feeling and intuition of, yes, I'm on the right path. I should keep pursuing this. But understand this, certainty is only going to come from moving forward. You are not going to think your way into purpose. If you keep thinking and there's a bunch of ideas in your head and you never act on them, it's only going to lead to more anxiety and uncertainty. You have to move forward. You have to try things. You have to shake up serendipity and make luck possible for you. So go out there, try as many different things as you can, listen to your intuition. Again, depending on your belief system, I highly recommend that you meditate, that you pray to God, that you listen to God, and listen to which way He's trying to guide you, and just move forward. The path will illuminate as you walk it, but never before. And your faith is truly only there if you actually act. It's not just about knowing, you have to act. So guys, I hope that was helpful for you. Purpose is going to be a big part of your life. It's going to paint over everything that you do. And it's almost never going to come from just checking boxes and living a life that the algorithm tells you is cool. It's almost always going to come from that inner voice, the unique experiences that you've had in your life and what you were put here to do. So I hope that was helpful for you. As I said, be sure to check out the newsletter and the resources in the description. Let me know what you guys want to hear about next. I'll chat with you next time. Cheers.